there. Welcome to the American Legion Friday Night Fish Fry. Y'all come in to the best fish fry in town.
Well, as a 30-plus year Oxford resident, I've got to tell you, the American Legion, East Drainer Road, Fridays from 12 to 9, the best fish in the area.
We've been coming here for years, and the food's always been wonderful.
Here we are at the Legion having our fish and chips. Walleye is fantastic. Cod is good, shrimp, everything. It's a great place to eat on Friday night with our friends. Service is great, so you should come out and have it.
If it's Friday, it's Fish Day at the American Legion at 130 East Drainer Road, Oxford. Welcome back. We went to the backside of Oxford Township to visit with a honey rescuer. With us our story is Terry Stiles. Terry?
Hi, Bill. It's great to be back working with you, and I'm in Oxford Township with Roy Coates. And Roy Coates has sort of an interesting hobby. He's not a beekeeper per se yet, but he's a bee rescuer. Roy, tell us a little bit about what bee rescuing is.
Well, a homeowner gets a bee colony set up in their house or in their floorboard behind the siding, and they don't know what to do with it. So they search the web and find a beekeeper, and I've got my name on a list to recover swarms, and we call them cutouts when they're inside the house, and then we dismantle the house and take the hive out, take the chunks of comb and put them in a hive and set the bees in the woods and let them be bees. Okay,
as far as rescuing them, you're doing that to preserve the honeybees, correct?
Yeah, to help, certainly, the colony collapse disorder. I'm not sure that it's really quite understood yet, but they do struggle. I think it's more in commercial beekeeping, my understanding. But yeah, to preserve nature.
Have you rescued any of the hives to be able to raise them? Is that how you say that?
Yeah, tend them, keep them. Yes. Well, the ones that we rescued this last summer, late in the summer, the challenge would be to nurse them to health and get them comfortable for the winter, and then next year we should be able to get some honey or even sell the bees.
What's the key to keeping them for the winter? Do they hibernate, or tell me a little bit about that?
Well, during the winter they cluster in a tight group to keep the nest warm. So we're going to provide a windbreak. We're going to try to provide them food if they need it, a pollen substitute if they don't have enough stores for the winter. And that's, there's science behind it, but it's also guesswork. It's like, how much does a hive weigh? And they don't hibernate per se. They continue the brood cycle or the rearing of young, but at a very slow pace because their lifespan's only 3 to 5 weeks, the worker bee. So they have to keep recycling the group. And then check them, periodically, and if they get low, we can put food stuff in there if we have to.
As opposed to the honey, the purpose of the honey is for them to maintain their own world, basically, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And that's the best is to be able to leave them their own honey. The plan for me is to harvest in the spring when there's new nectar flow, and it won't interrupt their feeding with artificial sugar. Stopped feeding that to my kids a long time ago.
Right. The same thing that hummingbirds are eating right now, the bees would actually be able to stay alive on.
Right. Yeah, it's a sugar syrup 2 to 1 or 1 to 1 depending on the season, and then we can add some vitamins and minerals. And there's a pollen substitute. I think it's made out of soy, if needed. But the best thing is their own food.
Their own environment.
Yeah.
And tell me a little bit about this structure.
Well, this is a piece of old comb that the bees just abandoned, and I built this little frame so I can take the chunks of comb. If they come out, and they're going to come out in odd shapes, and I trim them, I fit them in here, sew them with a little twine and a needle, and then I can put it in in the hive that we use is it's called a Kenya top bar hive. Traditionally, they don't have a frame. We just allow the bees to build from the bar down in a natural form. So this helps get that hive from the structure into, or the colony from a structure into the hive.
And that's in the process of rescuing those bees that otherwise would be perhaps fogged?
Yeah, exterminated, yeah. Yeah. And many people have tried to exterminate by spraying the entrance or plugging the entrance, and it has an adverse effect. They'll find another way out, sometimes into the home, and spraying the entrance will kill hundreds, but it won't kill the colony, so to speak. Some powder dusting, I think some of the extermination companies will use. They track it back into the hive. And there's some extermination companies that I've been told won't do it. They just, let's see, friendly yellow jacket.
Okay.
So I've gotten some calls that said, you know, we're not allowed to, and there's a myth, I think, about it's against the law to exterminate bees, but if they're in your home, I think you can. It's just maybe a philosophical question. Should we exterminate them or rescue them?
Sure, and you're allowed to protect yourself. So after you've removed these basic bee homes, you then bring them back to your home?
Yes. And the first one that I brought home came from Detroit, and my wife was upset with me for a couple of months. There was some indication maybe back in '07 that I was allergic to bees. I got stung a few times in under the arm by wasps, and I had to sit in the truck. I got hot. My head felt funny. I didn't need to go to the hospital, but the doc gave me some EpiPens just in case. And then over the course of a few years, I got 3 or 4 stings, and other than local swelling, no reaction. So I said, hey, we're going to get some honeybees. Do whatever you want, I think was the comment. And so I did, and she was upset. And then later, she's become interested in it, certainly interested in the honey. They are a fascinating creature that produces a very wonderful product.
So you got involved actually during another job that you do, correct?
Yes, the landscaping business, we always would exterminate the hornets and wasps, and I didn't even know how to identify bees. You know, they all were the same to me. If they sting, I don't like them. Well, back in childhood, my neighbor had some honeybees on the block, so I got a little exposure back then. And then just some of the news I was hearing about them, I thought, maybe I can make a difference.
And I think you are. I was really impressed when I found out about you and what you do. Just for the viewer's sake, you shoot away a yellow jacket. I didn't know the difference between a yellow jacket and a honeybee. Can you kind of break down those steps?
The honeybee's fuzzy and a little shorter, the worker bee anyway. The drone's big fat bee, and then the queen is quite a bit longer abdomen. The yellow jacket has a smoother surface and a yellow, very distinct yellow and black stripe. So the yellow jackets and wasp are attracted, those are both yellow jackets, they're attracted to the honey, and they will rob out one of these new hives that I bring in. So I put a real small hole in the hive to allow them to protect just a little area. And just like in anything, you know, it's easier to protect a small space than it is a large space.
Okay. You mean for the honeybees to protect themselves from the jackets?
Yeah. I also trap for them. I have bottles with a banana peel, vinegar, sugar, and water with just a little hole, and they'll go in and they can't find their way out. And
oh, right. That's an age-old way of actually killing bugs or getting rid of the bugs in your area.
Trap them, and there's no pesticides, and they drown, which isn't very nice, but
they're not tearing your honey hives apart, right?
Right, or stinging the kids or the wife, or you know. And right. I tell the neighbors if they get stung by a bee to check, because I put collars on all of mine so that we can identify them.
Next, you'll be putting those little tracers in them, right?
Oh, the chip, yeah, the RFD chip. Yeah.
Okay, so now you're growing from this point, correct? You are actually, can we say you're in the business of rescuing bees that people don't want?
Yes, absolutely. And it's, I'm getting inundated with calls, I think, for not only bees, but hornets and wasps and other rodents. So I've applied for the DNR license to trap and relocate small animals like raccoons. And then there's some testing in that involved to actually spray pesticides. It's a little bit of a process and some licensing fees, but shouldn't be a problem by next year.
So we won't put your number on the screen yet to say call Roy if you have a house full of bees.
Right. Not for exterminating, but I don't think there's, to my knowledge, there's no regulation about taking them and putting them in a hive. So.
And do you have any hives set up yet?
Yes. Yeah. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5 hives. Some have 2 or 3 colonies in them, small colonies. They're all hives that I built. I learned from the internet, and the top bar hive is the main hive that I use. It's a more natural way of beekeeping. We harvest the comb with the honey, so it helps prevent pesticide buildup in the comb. Oh. And by interrupting some of the brood cycle, by doing that, it also prevents some of the mites and pests that have been bugging bees for a while.
Which is the theory of the hive, the collapsed hive, one of the theories that they're going by, right?
Yes. Certainly, if you're in an area where, like a golf course or a farm where they're using a lot of pesticides, the bees will pick it up. They're going to track it into the hive. It's going to become a part of the home, and every year it will grow and grow and grow. The foundations that the traditional beekeeping in a Langstroth hive, they reuse them over and over and over again. So that might be a part of it.
Okay, so if people do have what they think might be honeybees or even wasps or any other critters in their house, what would you recommend they do?
Well, to identify it first would be the best. And people call me quite often, and I ask them to send me a picture of it, and they'll see how I can help identify it. Usually by asking, what does the nest look like? If they can see the nest, that's usually an indication it's a wasp or a hornet, because they're usually out in the open. Honeybees do make homes in the trees and have external comb, but not very often. They usually like a cavity, and then they have to make a decision on what do they want to do. It's probably monetarily it's probably the same if they don't go into the home, if they're in there, and remove all the wax and remove all the larvae and scrape it out clean and sew it back up tight. That will make a invitation for another colony to move in. Yeah.
You're saving a lot more, however, by doing this than somebody coming in with some kind of spray and getting rid of them. So I have to thank you for that. I've been concerned for a while about that bee collapse syndrome, because I love honey myself. It's a pure selfish reason. If people do have questions for you, can you give them a website or a number that they can call?
Well, the business Kids and a Dad at Work are on Facebook. It's got my phone number. My phone number is 840-4611. 248. I'd be glad to talk and help you figure it out, and if you're close, we can maybe do something for you.
Great. I'm glad we got a chance to talk to you, and hopefully somebody will call you as opposed to using pesticides and getting rid of the honeybees. I don't know about the wasps. They can go away as far as I'm concerned. But Bill, I've had a great time out here talking with Roy and finding out a lot more about bees and making me like them a little bit more. And I'm going to send it back to you.
Good job, Terry, and welcome to our Community Access. Next up, we sent Monique Maxim to cover some of the Metamora Days 2012.
Just a short trip to our north is Metamora, and they have the Metamora Days brought to us by the Lions Club. Let's go take a walk inside and see what they have. Adele is our lovely lioness here at the Metamora Days. Now, the Lions is a huge fundraiser, and what's their part in this tonight? Are you raising funds tonight?
They do. This is like their biggest event of the year. It raises money that they give to charities all year long.
You can always count on the Lions for community support. And thanks to our Lioness here for all your work. And let's go see the best that this craft show has to offer. As I came into the craft show, I could not help but notice this gorgeous artwork. What's your name?
Barbara Bruner.
Barbara Bruner, and you make this art?
I sure do.
Tell us about this beautiful art.
All right, they're all hand sewn by hand. I use metallic threads because they're more beautiful.
They are beautiful.
Thank you.
Bling is the new black, and I think you've nailed it here with this.
Well, thank you so much. And it's fun to make different things, and there's no end to the combinations.
It is beautiful. We are just having fun at the craft show here. I'm with the Elling family, and what they do is make maple syrup for us. And Brad, thanks for being here. Brad had some interesting facts about the maple syrup this year. Tell us about the harvest this year.
It was way early. It was a month early. When it flowed like a river. If you weren't ready for it, you missed it.
But Brad, you didn't miss it.
No, we were lucky and was prepared for it.
And so tell us about your harvest this year and how you go through the process of making this Michigan maple syrup for us.
It takes about 40 to 45 gallons of sap to make a gallon of syrup. You collect it, and you have to boil it right away because it'll spoil. Just like fresh milk, if it's allowed to warm up, it'll spoil. So to have a good product, you got to have a good raw material, so you can't have spoiled material and have a good product. So it has to be cooked right away. And you just boil and boil and boil it and lose the water and leave the sugar.